33-year-old Jolene Cummings is working her shift at Tangle's hair salon.
Jolene was a people person. She wanted to make everyone feel special.
How you doing? This is gonna look amazing on you.
She was always good at hair, and she was the top of her class in the updos, and she really loved it, and I was often her guinea pig. I just knew that whatever Jolene would do, she'd be good at, and she definitely was. Her children were the most important thing to her. The boys' daddy would get them on the weekend, but her weekend was working on a Saturday and then getting the boys back on a Sunday afternoon. The kids were the love of her life, above anything else.
Yes, that one there, that's my youngest. He just turned 2. My heart.
2018 would have been the first year that she would be able to celebrate Mother's Day on her birthday with her 3 kids.
When is that gonna happen again? Crazy, right?
The kids and I had baked a cake, and yeah, it was supposed to be the best of all days.
I'm off. Good night. Have a good weekend. See you on Tuesday.
Have a good weekend.
Fernandina Beach, 911.
On the morning of May 14th, 2018, Ann Johnson called and reported her daughter, Jolene Cummings, missing. She stated that she had not seen her since Saturday, May 12th.
That Sunday, her daughter tried calling her mother, and she wasn't answering, and then I tried, and there wasn't an answer. And by that time, the boy's daddy, Jason, had came to my house and said Jolene never showed up. And it's like, my heart just dropped. My heart dropped. Because I knew something had happened. Nothing would keep Jolene from coming to the house to be with her children on Mother's Day.
There was an estranged husband, Jason Cummings. Anytime in a missing persons case, when there is an estranged spouse, they are going to be a person of interest. They are going to be someone that you want to talk to.
Hi, Jason Cummings. This is Detective Sergeant Harrington. I need to talk to you about Jolene.
He agreed to come down and meet with me at the sheriff's office the next day.
Thanks.
Investigators head to Tangle's hair salon to trace Jolene's last movements.
And I spoke to the manager and owner of Tangle's hair salon, who did confirm that Jolene had worked on Saturday, May the 12th, and that she had worked until approximately 5 p.m. And there was one other hairdresser in the salon that was scheduled to work that day. Her name was Jennifer Seibert.
We've got a hold of Jennifer Seibert on the phone.
Hi, Jennifer. This is Detective Harrington from the Sheriff's Office.
She said when she left the salon, Jolene left, that's the last time she had seen her.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
On the day that Jolene was reported missing, we did create a missing persons flyer. The flyer included a photograph of Jolene, it included a photograph of her vehicle, as well as a tag number for her vehicle. As I was looking through law enforcement databases for any previous reports concerning Jolene, the only report I discovered was a domestic dispute between Jolene and her current boyfriend, Jason G.
Take a look at this.
The report that I located indicated that just a few days before Jolene had last been seen, Jolene had called the police because she and her boyfriend, Jason, had been in an altercation. By the time patrol deputies arrived, he had fled the home and was no longer there.
It kind of raises a lot of red flags. We definitely want to follow up on this individual and see if they had another altercation.
Try calling him.
Hi, I'm a detective with the Sheriff's Department.
Once the detective identified themselves, the call was terminated, and any efforts to call back, rang and rang, and then it seemed to be turned off.
I can't get a hold of him.
Let's go find him.
Jason G. may be the person responsible for Jolene being missing.
Nobody seemed to know where he was at.
It became very urgent for me to find his location, and I got a warrant to ping his cell phone in attempts to try to find out where he was.
While investigators are waiting for the cell phone trace, they receive news of a sighting of Jolene's vehicle.
This is Harrington.
Someone thought they had seen Jolene's vehicle in the parking lot of a Home Depot in Yulee, Florida, which is just outside of Fernandina Beach.
And you're sure it's her vehicle?
They had noted the tag number, and it was the same tag number listed in the missing persons BOLA.
Thanks. We've got Jolene's car.
I was extremely excited. I immediately left my office with detectives from the crime scene unit and went to the Home Depot parking lot. All the doors were locked except for the driver's door, which was unlocked.
There's no keys in the vehicle. That would lead you to believe that someone left in a hurry and just didn't lock the vehicle.
Nothing.
I'll get it taken to be searched. I'm gonna need a vehicle towed.
After taking a look at Jolene's vehicle, the next thing I wanted to do was I wanted to do a canvass around the area for any type of video surveillance. It was very disappointing because business after business was checked, and it just seemed like none of the cameras covered the area where Jolene's vehicle was. It may not have been until the next day that we actually discovered a bank that had some video surveillance.
It had a security camera facing out to one of the entrance roads coming into the shopping center area.
Detectives head to the bank to review the footage from its security cameras.
It started early evening.
We knew from our investigation thus far that Jolene had worked until approximately 5 p.m. on May 12th. So we started viewing the camera at approximately that time.
Stop.
I'm watching the bank video at around 1 o'clock.
Eventually, bam, we see something that looks like Jolene's vehicle.
So I was like, that's it. That's Jolene's Ford being driven into the parking lot.
The CCTV footage captures Jolene's vehicle 8 hours after she was last seen at Tangle's hair salon.
It was a very exciting moment, and we knew that, you know, maybe this is going to be a big break.
Play that bit again.
And you could see Jolene's vehicle entering the parking lot area, but it drove into frame and out of frame. It didn't actually show the vehicle being parked.
Do you have any other cameras?
I'm hoping and praying that there's another camera angle that shows the vehicle being parked and who gets out of the vehicle.
It started at the same time? That's her vehicle.
The vehicle pulls into a parking space facing east.
There was a couple of trees that blocked part of the view, so it wasn't clear.
Sits there a little while, then an individual gets out of that vehicle.
Stop it there. Play that again.
It appears that they're dressed in all dark clothing.
Punch it.
Jolene?
But it's impossible to identify who that person is just because of the distance between the camera and the area where the vehicle was parked. It was frustrating.
Thanks for your time.
While deputies hunt for footage to identify the mystery person, Detective Harrington returns to the sheriff's office to interview Jolene's estranged husband.
Jason Cummings showed up at the sheriff's office as agreed on time.
Jolene's missing. Okay, she hadn't been seen since she left work.
We had known that Jason Cummings had picked up the kids from Jolene. He was supposed to bring them back on Mother's Day, which would be Sunday.
So I wait there, and about 6:20, 6:25, I text Jolene and said, look, you're late. I said, I'll be here in 20 minutes. Then I went to her mom's house to see if she was over there, see what was going on. And that's when I found out they'd been trying to get a hold of her all day, and nobody's talked to her.
He said the last time he had seen Jolene was the day that he picked the kids up.
He stated that during the weekend of the 12th through the 13th of May that he was with their kids.
They played outside pretty much all day in pool.
Detectives were able to verify Jason Cummings' alibi.
If you need to search anything, I got my car out here, you're more welcome.
The search of Jason Cummings' cell phone and vehicle didn't reveal anything of a suspicious nature.
I appreciate you coming in, and I appreciate you letting me take a look at your vehicle. I appreciate your cooperation.
At that time, he was pretty much eliminated as a suspect.
Meantime, investigators trace Jolene's missing boyfriend, Jason G., to a house in Hilliard near Jacksonville. Deputies bring him to the sheriff's office for questioning.
We want to know, when we interview him, why he was running from us, trying to avoid us.
I got a warrant for violation of probation. I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't have nothing to do with Jolene.
He kept saying he had no involvement in her disappearance.
I just found out about Jolene being missing yesterday at 3 o'clock. My aunt come and told me. I don't know who she's at, but I love her. I honestly love her.
He told us where he was during the time of Jolene's disappearance. We went and interviewed Jason G's friends, who said that he was at a barbecue and nothing seemed out of the ordinary.
We were able to determine that he was at some friend's house in Jacksonville and had spent the whole weekend there.
So we can eliminate him from being a part of this, and we can continue on investigating the disappearance.
Investigators charged Jason G. with no crimes in relation to Jolene's disappearance or their domestic dispute. On the other side of town, Jolene's mom, Anne, searches for her daughter.
Jolene! I didn't want to interfere with the investigation, but I spent days and days walking, even areas that we probably weren't supposed to.
Jolene!
When a mother's on a mission, you're totally focused on finding your loved one. I never stopped searching. The friends and the people that did help were phenomenal. I mean, they just went out on their own looking for Jolene.
Have you heard anything? Can you please let me know if you hear anything?
Having a loved one disappear and not knowing is the most heart-wrenching thing that you can go through. Just felt totally helpless.
Jolene! Jolene!
Investigators returned to Tangle's hair salon to search for clues that might explain Jolene's disappearance.
On the 15th of May, we went to Tangle's hair salon to take a look at the salon and to talk to the manager.
Just have a couple more questions for you.
The salon closed late Saturday afternoon and opened back up on Tuesday at 10 a.m.
Do you have any security cameras in here?
There were cameras inside the salon, but they were dummy cameras.
It doesn't work. It's just for show.
It was very disappointing.
Thanks. If you think of anything or hear from Jolene, let us know. Of course.
Investigators searched nearby businesses for CCTV cameras.
My hope was the security cameras at the strip mall where Tangles was located might show Jolene leaving after work on Saturday. It may show who she left with, if anybody. It may confirm that she left in her vehicle or if something happened to her in the parking lot. When we were told that The cameras at the strip mall didn't work. It was discouraging, but there's nothing you can do but to move on with the investigation.
But deputies do secure footage from a gas station close to the Home Depot where Jolene's car was found.
My hope was that if the person who exited Jolene's vehicle either went to the gas station or even walked through the parking lot, that I would have a pretty good view of who that person may be. When we reviewed the video, we knew we needed to start around 1 o'clock because we had seen Jolene's vehicle arrive at 1:17 a.m.
At that point, we would possibly be able to identify the person that left Jolene's vehicle in the parking lot.
It's at 1:19 a.m., 2 minutes after Jolene's vehicle was parked, that we see someone dressed in all black walk into the Gate gas station. There was no doubt in my mind that, the person I seen walking into the store was the same person that exited Jolene's vehicle.
We see a female wearing all black with her hair pulled back into a bun. She seems a little antsy, as if something is the matter, where the other customers are either checking out or going through the aisles shopping.
She just looked out of place.
Who is it? Punch it in.
I was able to see her purchase a bottle of water. I could also see what looked like injuries to her face, specifically what looked like a scratch under one of her eyes.
Print out that image.
We did take still photographs from the video surveillance, and we showed them to the manager of Tangle's Hair Salon.
We just have a few more questions.
Okay.
Do you know her?
That's Jennifer.
She was immediately able to identify it as Jennifer Seibert.
Jennifer is Jolene's co-worker at Tangle's Hair Salon.
She was the last person on the schedule with Jolene Cummings.
What can you tell us about her?
Jennifer Seibert had only been employed at the salon for a couple of months, and that initially Jennifer and Jolene seemed to get along very well. But as time went by, there was increased tension between the two, to the point that there had recently been some flare-ups and some arguments. The manager was also able to confirm that when she had seen Jennifer Seibert the previous weekend, that she described her face as flawless, that she did not have any scratches on her face. She told the manager that she quit and she would mail her key to the salon.
We went to find Jennifer Seibert and question her about that day.
Do you have an address for her?
Yeah. Here. Thanks.
I went to the location that Jennifer had provided on her application for employment, where she stated that she lived with her mother in Fernandina Beach. I determined that address doesn't even exist. It was all false. I knew I had to track her down. I knew that I needed to start pinging her phone.
While investigators wait for a fix on Jennifer's phone, a forensics team examines Tangle's for clues that might reveal what happened to Jolene.
It looked like a normal hair salon. But as the crime scene unit took a closer look, they started to notice little things. They noticed a desk drawer over by the cash register, that the front of it was damaged.
Looking a little closer, they noticed that one of the schedule appointment books had a couple tiny specks of what appeared to be possibly a blood stain.
We started seeing more and more blood droplets. Eventually, we used what they call luminol. If there's been any type of blood on the floor that had been cleaned up, luminol will actually bring it to light. The salon just lit up like a Christmas tree. It was shocking to see the amount of blood that had been in that salon.
It was on the floor and the wall. It had mop imprints where it was clear that somebody had cleaned up blood.
Something bad happened in that salon.
It was very obvious to me that there had been one hell of a fight, probably, or struggle inside that salon, and that there had been a extensive effort for somebody to clean it up and conceal it. I knew at that time that I was no longer working a missing persons case. The thing that hit me hardest was I knew I was going to have to tell Jolene's family that I suspected that she was dead.
She was taken by the hands of another. Having to find out, the gory details. It's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. Left a deep hole. Without Jolene, it's a hole. It's a black hole.
We knew that Jennifer Seibert owned a black Kia Soul. We suspected that she may be living out of her vehicle. So we started searching all of Northeast Florida. We sent detectives to search truck stops, rest areas.
When I'm driving down Interstate 95 South, I'm looking if there's any vehicle on the side of the road, and I was aware that there was a rest area. When I pulled in and happened to see a small black Kia Soul parked between, I believe it was two semis, I couldn't tell if there's anybody in the vehicle. We know there's some kind of foul play, so it wouldn't be safe to approach a vehicle by yourself in this type of situation.
I found her.
Detective Rose made contact with me via phone, and myself and several other detectives went to that location. As myself and the other detectives approached the vehicle, I could tell that the vehicle was running. It appeared that somebody was sleeping in the back hatchback area. I don't have any idea if this person is armed with a gun or a knife or anything else.
Sheriff's office!
And I asked the person that is inside the vehicle to exit the vehicle.
Get out of the vehicle. Slowly. Show me your hands.
As the person climbs from the back towards the driver's side door of the vehicle, I can tell that it is Jennifer Seibert. Not only does she have multiple injuries to her face, but she has went to some extent to try to cover them up with makeup and some bandages.
My name is Detective Harrington. Have you seen Jolene lately?
No, I hardly know her.
I tell her that I'm investigating Jolene Cummings' disappearance.
Have you ever been in her vehicle?
No.
She immediately replied no, which at that point I knew that she was being untruthful. At this time, I do not have enough probable cause to arrest her for homicide, but I probably got enough to charge her with grand theft auto because I knew that she had driven Jolene's vehicle into the Home Depot parking lot.
That allowed us to hold her until we could continue investigation, continue to gather evidence, trying to tie her to Jolene's disappearance.
Yeah, we're gonna need a tow truck.
I did request that the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office tow her vehicle to their facility and preserve it for later forensic examination. She was placed in the back of a vehicle and transported to the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office.
Those hurting you?
No, they feel great. You can put them on tighter if you want. Whatever you want to do. I'm at your mercy, so have as much fun as you'd like.
Okay, what you're gonna have to do is just stand up and bend over.
You seem very calm, very flippant.
When she was asked where the wounds to her face came from, she stated that she was riding her bike and that she had ran into a tree limb, causing the injuries to her face. She loved to talk about herself, but specifics of the Jolene Cummings case, she knew that to avoid that. She knew when it was time to talk and when not to talk. I discovered that there was a deputy in St. Johns County that had known Jennifer Seibert several years ago. He had met Jennifer through mutual like for motorcycles. He stated that she would normally have a storage facility where she kept that motorcycle.
We ended up getting pretty much a list of any storage unit that we had local in Nassau County, and we all just started checking out all the storage units to see if she was one of the renters there.
We were able to locate a storage unit on Sadler Road in Fernandina Beach. Inside the storage unit, we located some cleaning materials. There were wigs. There was also a pair of black military-style combat boots that appeared to be similar to the ones that was shown in the Gate gas station surveillance. So I was like, man, this is important. We need to have these boots processed and see if there's any type of blood or DNA evidence on these items.
Investigators returned to Tangles to interview a staff member about Jolene's working relationship with Jennifer.
Her name was Ann Morgan, and she described Jennifer and Jolene's relationship as good at first, but then towards the end, very, very confrontational. She went into detail about an incident that happened in which Jolene was trying to talk to her about Jennifer.
About 2 weeks before she's missing, she told me something about Jennifer that I cannot put my hand on it. She not right. She fake, Miss Ann. She fake something about her that I don't trust.
Ann stated that Jennifer seemed very intent on trying to eavesdrop on this conversation.
Jolene look up to her, say, go away. I don't want to talk to you. You crazy, you fake.
Jolene had actually told her, I want to look into this Jennifer Seibert. I want to do some background checks because I don't think she is who she says she is. It started my mind thinking, is that my motive? Is that my motive for the crime? When I started trying to look into Jennifer Seibert's criminal history, there was nothing there that stood out. If anything stood out, it was the fact that there was very little background there at all.
I started searching for Jennifer Seibert, and the search came back to a 13-year-old little girl who had been killed in Germany, but buried in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Hi there. This is Detective Rose from the Nassau County Sheriff's Office in Florida. I'm sorry to have to ask you this.
We contacted the father of Jennifer Seibert, who confirmed that his daughter had passed away in an accident in Germany. We also sent him a picture of who is claiming to be Jennifer Seibert, and he confirmed that he did not know who that person was. Who is she? Who is this person? And we have no idea who she is.
We went into an interview room, and the first thing that I asked her, do you want me to call you Jennifer Seibert?
When you run my fingerprints through, they come up as Kimberly Lee Kessler. I've been running from the FBI for over 25 years. I've been living under this particular alias since 1999, and that's about it.
After she had explained to me that her real name was Kimberly Kessler, she gave me several aliases that she had lived under, the different jobs that she had worked, from exotic dancer to truck driver. She explained that she had previously been in a relationship with a guy who was a serial bank robber, and that she thought that the FBI may be in search of her in reference to that.
So I met him at a topless bar, and just started going out with him and whatever, and he was with me. He called somebody and they said, the FBI is looking for you. So I'm like, you what? And I hid him in my apartment, and that was like kind of almost the beginning.
As we researched information that was provided during the interview, we were able to determine that most of it was factual, but there was no evidence that we could determine that the FBI was ever looking for her. She was very calm, very composed, but I also noticed that anytime I approached the subject of Jolene, that she was quick to shut down.
Something happened to Jolene, and we actually sent our crime scene unit out to process tangles. And there was some evidence there, okay? And I know that she said some negative things to you that day. She said that she thought you were fake and she was gonna look you up.
I don't remember any of that.
That's what I was told. I think Jolene's dead, and I think you know where Jolene is, and I'm gonna find out where those little boys' mama is. I promise you I'm gonna do that. You can help me do that, and you're the one that can make it happen right now.
No, I cannot.
When I tried to really kind of approach her in an aggressive manner, she never flinched and lost her cool or lost her composure.
Let me reply it this way, and you may not like the answer. I would like legal counsel.
Do you not want to talk to me without legal counsel? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, sir.
After she invoked her right to an attorney, I knew it was time to continue working with the evidence that we had.
Investigators analyzed the objects recovered from Kimberly Kessler's car.
We did find inside her vehicle a salon kit with a pair of scissors in there, and they looked to be some type of red stain in the screw part of the scissors. Certainly taking that to the lab to be tested.
We found a receipt that showed a purchase at the Walmart in Fernandina Beach. It was on the same day that Jolene apparently went missing. We were able to obtain video surveillance that showed that it was Kimberly Kessler purchasing the items at 8:57 p.m.
Is there a closer angle?
Yes, there is.
The purchases included a bottle of ammonia, trash bags, but probably the most chilling item that was bought was a large electric fillet knife. I knew that not only had Jolene been murdered, but she had likely been dismembered.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, I could not think of anybody would even think of doing something like this. How could somebody do that?
Investigators returned to Tangles to search for clues about the location of Jolene's body.
The wooded area behind Tangles, I observed a blue bin, and it kind of stood out because it appeared to be the exact type of blue bins that were in Kimberly Kessler's storage unit when we executed that search warrant. I asked that the bin be collected and analyzed for any type of DNA or blood evidence.
There's a restaurant located next door. So I went and I said, hey, do y'all have any video surveillance?
Can you take it back to the night of the 12th?
This camera shows the back of the business, and right next door to that is Tangle's Salon.
That's Kimberly.
I knew it was huge when we saw this surveillance video. Shortly after closing time, we could see Kimberly Kessler carrying heavy trash bags out to the dumpster behind the facility.
Punch in there.
Approximately 4 hours after, at 12:14 a.m., we also saw her carry the blue bin that was found in the wood line out and dump the contents out into the ground in the woods. I had no doubt in my mind that, I was watching her clean up the homicide scene.
I thought with everything else that we have, we got her. We got her in action doing something with foul play. There's something bad going on here.
When the garbage truck comes and empties the dumpster, it was just kind of heartbreaking because I realized that, not only evidence was going to the landfill, it was possible that at least parts of Jolene were going to the landfill.
A search of the landfill reveals no sign of Jolene's remains.
We had pinpointed the area where we thought they were dumped. We searched for a week, but we just couldn't find anything.
On May 30th, 2018, we received a large amount of results of the items that we had sent for analysis. The boots recovered from the storage unit had Jolene's Cummings blood on it. The substance found on the screw of the scissors did come back as Jolene Cummings' blood.
We believe right then that that was the murder weapon.
A forensic analysis located a partial fingernail in the blue bin and confirmed that it was Jolene Cummings' fingernail.
Eventually, we gathered enough evidence to charge Kimberly Kessler with the murder of Jolene.
Kimberly Kessler's trial begins on December 6, 2021. She pleads not guilty. Prosecutors step through the events that led to Jolene's murder.
Kessler, we believe, was afraid that Jolene was going to find out who she really was. She knew that they both worked on Saturday. When the salon closed, there was a big fight, and Jolene lost her life. Kessler tried to destroy all the evidence and clean up the salon. She wants to get rid of Jolene's vehicle because it would be suspicious it was still in the parking lot. She thought she could get away with it.
The jury come back and found Kimberly Kessler guilty of first-degree murder and grand theft auto. The judge sentenced Kimberly Kessler to life in prison without the possibility for parole. I was happy that justice had been served. On the other hand, I was disappointed that I was not able to find Jolene and return her to her family. The closed circuit TV was instrumental. I don't think we would have been able to make this case without the surveillance video.
The investigation reveals that Kimberly Kessler lived in multiple locations across the United States, and that Jennifer Seibert is just one of a number of fake names that she used.
Between 1996 and the time she was arrested in 2018, Kimberly Kessler had lived in at least 33 different cities. She had used at least 18 different aliases.
Investigators believe the length of time Kessler spent on the run and the number of aliases she adopted indicate that Jolene might not be her only victim.
I absolutely believe there's more people out there. I absolutely believe that. There's somebody out there that if they have a missing loved one and you hear of the alias names or the cities, if we could help just one other family, give them some answers. That's really important to me because at this point, I can't bring Jolene back, but maybe we could help someone else out.
To date, prosecutors have charged Kimberly Kessler with no other killings.
After the sentencing, I shut down. It was my time to grieve, and I'm still shut down. I'm still grieving. If I could talk to Jolene today, I would tell her how much I love her. I'd just tell her how proud I am of her. The only thing that we have of Jolene is her fingernail. Her remains have not been found. There's only one person that can answer that, and the one person refuses to answer. Other people, they have an obituary. They have a casket. They have a service. They have a burial. We didn't have any of that. Confess to what you did. Give us some kind of a closure. Give us something of my daughter. Will that happen? Probably not. I just hope that some possible way that someone, somewhere, will find something in my daughter.
This season on See No Evil.
Someone got stuck.
This is a personal thing.
I shot him and then said, "Remember me, bitch."
We start to look for possible surveillance cameras. If they go inside, we will have them at that point.
There was a strong odor. I have only ever been able to associate it with death.
It is suspicious. What are they doing with this money?
Oh my God, there's so much blood.
I was just trying to think of who it could have been that killed my brother.
He's luring the victim to McDonald's with the intent to kill him.
The whole shooting is on video.
You had to pull a gun and shoot my brother over a girl?
This was actually a planned out execution.
It was a quiet morning in the small Kentucky town of Harrow Creek, the kind of morning where even the birds seemed hesitant, their calls muffled by a fog that hung low over the fields. The kind of morning that hides secrets in plain sight. On March 12, 2000, the silence was broken in the worst possible way. A young woman named Emily Sanders vanished without a trace. Only 22 years old, radiant, with a laugh that could warm a room, Emily had been last seen leaving the diner where she worked late into the night. Friends remember her joking, shaking off the chill of the early March air, promising she'd be home in time for breakfast. But she never made it. Her car was found the next morning at the edge of the riverbank, doors unlocked, engines still warm, as if she had just stepped out for a moment. No one saw her leave. No one heard anything unusual. And then, the cold reality settled in. She was gone, and with her, the sense of safety in Harrow Creek vanished. The town of fewer than 5,000 souls awoke to a mystery that would haunt every corner for years to come. The investigation began in a flurry. Police canvassed the area, questioning neighbors, co-workers, anyone who might have seen Emily that night. Her apartment was searched meticulously, her belongings untouched. Nothing appeared stolen, nothing disturbed. The river was dragged, the woods scoured, the abandoned warehouses checked, yet there was no trace, no whisper of her presence after she left the diner. Theories emerged: runaway, abduction, even something darker, though nobody could imagine who would target someone so ordinary, so beloved. The local news covered it extensively, the story making waves across state lines, painting the town with a brush of suspicion and fear. People whispered in grocery aisles and behind closed doors. Friends called in tears. Family pleaded for information. But days turned to weeks, weeks to months, and Emily Sanders remained a ghost, slipping further from memory as the seasons changed, though never from the hearts of those who loved her. Detective Marcus Harlow, a man known for his meticulous attention to detail, took the lead. He was seasoned, having solved cases that spanned decades, yet there was something about Emily's disappearance that unsettled him. The scene of the abandoned car offered no clues. The riverbank and surrounding woods remained stubbornly silent. Witnesses recalled seeing a figure in a dark hoodie near the diner, but descriptions varied, details blurred. CCTV footage from the diner showed her leaving alone, walking into the mist as if swallowed whole by the night. It was the kind of case that gnawed at a detective's soul, haunting dreams, raising questions that had no answers. Marcus reviewed every report, every lead, but each path ended in frustration. The town began to fear that Emily would become another statistic in the long list of unsolved disappearances, a cold case buried in the archives of the police department. Then came the first strange clue, almost a decade later. In 2009, a retired postal worker came forward, claiming to have seen a suspicious vehicle near the riverbank the night Emily disappeared. He described an old pickup truck, faded blue, with a dent on the passenger door. The description alone wasn't enough to arrest anyone, but combined with another tip from an anonymous caller, it pointed the investigation in a direction long overlooked. The name that emerged from the shadows was that of someone the town trusted, someone who blended seamlessly into the fabric of everyday life. A neighbor, someone who waved at Emily at the mailbox, whose children played with hers. Suddenly, the friendly faces in Harrow Creek were no longer safe. Suspicion crept into homes, and whispers filled the streets. The puzzle pieces were sharp, jagged, yet stubbornly refused to fit. For years, the case stagnated. Evidence that once seemed mundane was now re-examined under new forensic techniques. DNA technology had leaped forward, Fingerprints could be enhanced, old fibers analyzed with unprecedented precision. Marcus, who had never let a case go cold without exhausting every option, pored over the reports again. The town remained on edge. Each new development promised hope, but ended in disappointment. The cold case became a specter in Harrow Creek, a shadow over birthday parties, school events, and Sunday morning breakfasts. Mothers whispered caution to daughters, fathers looked over shoulders, and Emily's family lived in perpetual anguish, a heartbreak that time refused to heal. The breakthrough came unexpectedly in 2018. A discarded cell phone, long forgotten in a box of evidence, contained fragments of data, deleted messages, GPS coordinates that hinted at a location deep in the forest outside town. It was enough to reopen the investigation with vigor. Marcus and his team descended upon the forest, combing every inch, uncovering subtle signs, a disturbed patch of earth, faint footprints, a tangle of vegetation that suggested someone had moved through recently. The pieces started to click. The familiar faces in town now carried an uncanny weight. Every handshake, every casual greeting seemed to mask layers of deceit. Questions that had lingered for nearly 2 decades demanded answers. Then the unimaginable happened. A suspect emerged, not a drifter, not a stranger, but someone embedded within the community for years. The arrest sent shockwaves through Harrow Creek. Doors bolted. Neighbors stared in disbelief. The friendly face that had waved across fences, the one who had attended picnics and school meetings, was now linked to the disappearance that had haunted the town for 18 years. The evidence, painstakingly compiled, left little room for doubt. The suspect had lied, covered tracks, manipulated memories, and hidden in plain sight.
But why?
That question, like Emily's laughter frozen in time, remained hauntingly elusive. The town was silent the day of the arrest. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse, cameras flashing, whispers filling the air like static. Old friends of Emily cried openly, clutching photographs and memories of a life stolen too soon. Parents gripped children tightly, a collective shiver running through the community. For nearly 2 decades, they had lived with the uncertainty, the gnawing fear that evil could lurk behind familiar eyes. Now, justice, in some form, seemed within reach, yet the emotional scars would linger long after the headlines faded. Inside the interrogation room, Marcus watched as the suspect's composure cracked. Details spilled, confessions emerged, subtle admissions that revealed not only the events of that night, but the meticulous care taken to bury them. The town had always suspected something, yet no one could have predicted the layers of deception, the calculated manipulation that had allowed the case to remain cold for so long. Each revelation felt like a hammer striking the heart of the community, a reminder that evil is often closer than we imagine, hiding behind ordinary smiles and polite conversation. Even with the arrest, Emily's presence was still palpable in Harrow Creek. Vigils continued, streets still bore her name in whispers, and the riverbank remained a solemn reminder of a life interrupted. Marcus knew that solving a cold case didn't erase the pain. It merely framed it, offering answers where only questions had lived. The town, stunned by the unexpected arrest, would now grapple with the duality of relief and grief. For some, the shadow lifted slightly. For others, the echo of Emily's disappearance would forever haunt Sunday mornings and foggy March nights. The story of Emily Sanders became a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder that darkness can lurk beneath the surface of even the quietest communities. It was a tale of patience, persistence, and the unrelenting pursuit of truth. And though the arrest provided closure in one sense, the cold case remained etched into the collective memory of Harrow Creek, a story whispered on porches, shared over coffee, recounted in classrooms, and remembered by those who refused to forget the night the town's innocence vanished. The arrest sent tremors through Harrow Creek, but the air remained heavy, thick with the residue of fear that had lingered for nearly 2 decades. People walked the streets cautiously, glancing over shoulders, studying familiar faces with a new suspicion. Schools remained open, but parents lingered longer at drop-off, whispered warnings echoing through the hallways. Emily's story had infiltrated every corner of the town, turning casual conversations into hushed deliberations. And while law enforcement worked tirelessly to reconstruct the timeline, the quiet horror of that March night in 2000 remained vivid, etched into the collective consciousness. Detective Marcus Harlow knew that an arrest, no matter how shocking, was only part of the battle. The details, the motivations, the hidden fractures in human behavior, all of it demanded unraveling. It was a meticulous, exhausting process, as if each layer of deceit peeled back revealed another shadowy corridor, winding deeper into the town's psyche. The first interviews were excruciating, each one a delicate balance of pressure and patience. Witnesses who had long ago given up hope were suddenly thrust back into the heart of the investigation. Memories resurfaced, some vivid, others distorted by the passage of time. A neighbor recalled seeing headlights flicker near the riverbank just before Emily vanished, a detail dismissed at the time as mundane, now carrying an unbearable weight. Another mentioned the faint sound of a car door shutting, the echo swallowed by the fog. Small details, fragments, like broken shards of glass, now carried the power to reconstruct a night that had long resisted clarity. Marcus, meticulous as ever, mapped these accounts onto the physical space, overlaying past reports with current recollections, searching for a pattern, a signature of behavior, a crack in the facade that could reveal the truth. As the investigation deepened, it became clear that Emily's abduction was not random. Every action, every concealment, suggested planning, familiarity, someone who understood the rhythms of the town and its people. A pattern emerged. The suspect had observed, waited, and executed with chilling precision. The town's friendly streets, once a sanctuary, now seemed laden with unseen eyes. Places that had been ordinary, a convenience store, the diner, the riverbank, took on a sinister quality, as if each corner could hide a secret, each shadow a witness. Community members struggled with the realization that trust had been exploited, that evil could coexist with familiarity. It was an uncomfortable intimacy with darkness, one that left lasting impressions, whispers that would persist long after the trial concluded. Evidence recovered from the suspect's property revealed even more unsettling truths. Items linked to Emily's last known movements, carefully hidden, suggested deliberate manipulation of the narrative for years. There were photographs, fragments of conversations recorded and deleted, subtle alterations to account for missing time. Each piece, painstakingly analyzed by forensic experts, constructed a chilling portrait of control and obsession. The town, blindsided by the revelation that someone among them could harbor such a capacity for harm, struggled to comprehend the reality. Families gathered in hushed circles, recounting old interactions with the suspect, trying to reconcile the person they knew with the acts now attributed to them. Forensic breakthroughs were pivotal. DNA technology, which had matured over the intervening years, confirmed the suspect's connection to objects and locations tied to Emily's disappearance. Fibers, once considered inconsequential, now served as silent witnesses to the night in question. Soil samples from the suspect's property matched the composition of the riverbank where the car had been found. The accumulation of evidence was irrefutable, yet it was the psychological weight of the case, the betrayal, the proximity of evil, that truly shook Harrow Creek. Each revelation felt like a pulse of fear running through the town, a reminder that the past had never truly been laid to rest. Marcus oversaw every aspect of the renewed investigation, meticulous in approach yet empathetic to the community's trauma. Victims' advocates met with Emily's family daily, guiding them through the waves of emotion that crashed as old wounds were reopened. The family, once resigned to silence and unanswered questions, now faced a maelstrom of emotions: relief, grief, anger, disbelief. Interviews revealed that the suspect had meticulously monitored Emily for weeks prior to the disappearance, blending attention with invisibility, ensuring no one suspected. The town's collective shock stemmed not only from the heinous act itself, but from the realization that it had unfolded in plain sight, unnoticed, hidden behind smiles, greetings, and the mundane cadence of small-town life. The suspect's confession, obtained over long hours of careful questioning, unraveled the meticulous narrative constructed over nearly 2 decades. Details of Emily's movements, the steps taken to isolate and control her, emerged with harrowing clarity. Marcus noted the precision of timing, the calculated removal of evidence, the psychological manipulation that allowed the suspect to maintain innocence in the eyes of the community for so long. It was a case study in patience, deception, and human malevolence. Each revelation punctuated the tension in Harrow Creek, forcing residents to reevaluate memories, interactions, and assumptions. The friendly neighbor, the helpful coworker, the polite acquaintance, each person's perception of safety was irrevocably altered. Outside the courthouse, the town oscillated between relief and dread. Cameras captured stunned faces, voices trembled as interviews relayed disbelief and sorrow. The arrest, while bringing legal closure, could not erase the fear or the scars left behind. Local businesses reported wary customers, friends hesitated to trust, and the social fabric of the town, once tight-knit, resilient, showed fraying edges. Murmurs of the case persisted in daily conversation, over morning coffee, at the post office, in grocery aisles. Emily's presence, though physically absent, dominated the collective consciousness, an invisible thread connecting everyone through shared trauma. For Marcus, the psychological toll was as heavy as the physical work of investigation. Each lead, each interview, each fragment of evidence demanded mental endurance. He walked the riverbank, retracing paths long abandoned, noting inconsistencies, imagining sequences of movement, replaying reports over and over. Sleep became fragmented, dreams haunted by the foggy streets, the cold river, the unspoken terror of a young woman vanishing from life without warning. He understood that while an arrest could satisfy procedural closure, it could not heal emotional wounds. The town would carry the weight, a reminder that safety is fragile, trust is provisional, and darkness often hides behind familiar smiles. Months of preparation preceded the trial. Prosecutors meticulously organized evidence, consulting with forensic experts and psychologists to convey not only the physical proof, but also the context, the deliberate planning, the predatory mindset. Witnesses were coached gently, prepared for the emotional intensity of recounting events long past. Emily's family, central to the narrative, testified with a mix of sorrow and resolve, presenting a human face to the abstract horror that had pervaded Harrow Creek. The courtroom became a crucible of emotion, where decades of fear, uncertainty, and longing for justice converged. Every word, every photograph, every forensic report reinforced the reality. The town's nightmare had been engineered by someone they had known and trusted. Despite the overwhelming evidence, the trial remained tense. Defense attorneys questioned memories, challenged techniques, and emphasized the passage of time. Yet the accumulation of forensic breakthroughs, corroborated witness accounts, and digital footprints created an undeniable chain of accountability. The town watched intently, each day of testimony reopening old wounds, forcing communal reflection on vulnerability, observation, and the consequences of unnoticed evil. For some, the courtroom offered solace. For others, it reopened fear that had never fully subsided. The duality of justice and emotional trauma intertwined, underscoring the complex aftermath of a cold case reopened and solved. The sentencing marked both an end and a beginning. Justice, though delayed, arrived in measured steps, but the emotional landscape of Harrow Creek remained unsettled. People spoke cautiously, recognizing that the shock of discovery, the betrayal of proximity, and the reminder of mortality could not simply vanish. Emily's name, her laughter, her unfulfilled life, lingered in stories, in memories, in quiet recollections at riverbanks and in homes. Her absence, though accounted for legally, remained emotionally present, shaping interactions, perceptions, and the town's identity. Harrow Creek had been irrevocably altered, and the shadow of that March night in 2000 continued to stretch across decades, a reminder that some wounds are measured not in years, but in the depths of collective memory. The courtroom drama in Harrow Creek had barely settled when a new layer of questions began to surface, whispers threading through the town like a persistent wind. How could someone so familiar, so seemingly ordinary, have orchestrated Emily's disappearance with such precision? Neighbors recalled casual greetings, smiles exchanged on sunny afternoons, nothing hinting at the darkness beneath. And yet the truth, laid bare through testimony and forensic evidence, shattered that illusion. Marcus Harlow watched silently as the suspect's demeanor wavered under scrutiny, revealing subtle cracks that had been hidden for nearly 2 decades. Each revelation sent a ripple through the town, forcing residents to confront the fragility of trust and the unnerving reality that evil often wears a mask of normalcy. People revisited old interactions with Emily, trying to reconstruct fleeting moments, searching for signs they might have missed, wondering how innocence could be ensnared so completely. Forensic experts became the architects of clarity, translating the chaos of the past into a narrative that could be followed, scrutinized, and understood. Fibers from clothing, traces of soil, and minute scratches on the interior of the suspect's vehicle painted a portrait of movement and intent. GPS data, painstakingly recovered from fragmented digital footprints, placed the suspect near critical locations at critical times, a digital echo of human action that could no longer be denied. Each piece of evidence reinforced the meticulous nature of the crime, the premeditation, and the lengths taken to manipulate the narrative. The town, long accustomed to assumptions and appearances, grappled with the stark reality. A carefully orchestrated plan had unfolded in plain view, hidden behind familiarity and routine. Emily's family endured a roller coaster of emotions. Relief intertwined with grief, hope with despair. Visits to the riverbank, once a place of silent mourning, became charged with a new intensity. Every breeze, every ripple in the water, felt laden with meaning. Marcus accompanied them on some visits, understanding that closure was more than a legal outcome. It was an emotional reckoning. The detective, ever meticulous, noted the subtle ways trauma lingered in gestures, in glances, in the unspoken tension of shared spaces. The arrest had provided answers, but it had not removed the shadow, had not untangled the intricate web of memory, trust, and loss that had entwined itself around the town for nearly 2 decades. In parallel, the media descended, eager to document, to narrate, to interpret the culmination of years of suspense. Cameras followed courthouse steps, microphones captured trembling voices, and headlines proclaimed the shock that had reverberated across state lines. Journalists, hungry for detail, dissected every testimony, replayed every CCTV clip, and speculated on motives. The town, already tense, became a theater of observation, where every movement was scrutinized and every conversation was tinged with the knowledge that history had finally caught up with reality. The narrative unfolded like a live broadcast, but one weighted with the permanence of real lives affected, of emotions unaltered by the passing of time. Marcus continued to piece together the night of Emily's disappearance, constructing a timeline with forensic precision. The suspect had monitored her movements for weeks, anticipating routines, calculating vulnerabilities. The night itself unfolded like a sinister choreography, the path from the diner, the brief detour through side streets, the momentary pause at the riverbank. Each action, each choice, was deliberate, a sequence designed to isolate, to disorient, to erase. Marcus retraced the steps with officers, mapping footprints, analyzing soil displacement, and matching fiber evidence with painstaking care. The town, observing from a distance, could not fully comprehend the meticulousness, the patience, the cold deliberation that had allowed the crime to remain hidden for so long. Community meetings became a stage for collective processing. Residents recounted interactions with a suspect, stories once mundane now loaded with meaning. A neighbor remembered an odd pattern of nights spent away. A friend noted small inconsistencies in tales told. Each recollection, however minor, was catalogued, cross-referenced, and assessed for relevance. Marcus, recognizing the psychological weight of these sessions, guided discussions with care, ensuring that the town's healing, while fragmented, could begin. Yet the shadow of suspicion lingered, subtle and persistent, reminding all that the line between safety and danger is often imperceptibly thin. The suspect's interactions with law enforcement revealed layers of manipulation. Deceptive statements, carefully crafted alibis, and subtle misdirections had prolonged the mystery, allowing the narrative to unfold under a false guise. Digital communications, partially recovered, disclosed an ongoing engagement with the community under the guise of friendship and normalcy. Each revelation deepened the sense of betrayal, emphasizing the calculated nature of the crime. Residents, revisiting old impressions, were forced to acknowledge the unsettling truth. Appearances can deceive, and familiarity is no safeguard against malevolence. Emily's disappearance, once a cold case, now dominated local discourse. Schools incorporated safety discussions, parents reinforced vigilance, and community programs sought to foster awareness and resilience. Marcus worked alongside educators and civic leaders, translating the lessons of investigation into practical guidance. While the arrest provided legal closure, the educational and psychological dimensions of the case underscored the town's ongoing need to confront and understand its vulnerability. Conversations in homes, coffee shops, and public spaces often circled back to one question: how could such meticulous harm be executed without notice? The answer, though partial, lay in observation, deception, and the subtle erosion of communal trust. As the trial approached its conclusion, tension in Harrow Creek reached a crescendo. Residents crowded courtrooms, straining to witness every piece of testimony. Media coverage intensified, cameras following every step, every gesture, every subtle reaction. The suspect's demeanor oscillated between composure and visible strain, a mirror of the community's own fluctuating emotional state. Marcus, observing from the sidelines, noted the interplay of human emotion and procedural rigor, recognizing that closure, while legal, remained an incomplete measure of justice. The town had changed irrevocably, shaped by trauma, discovery, and the unsettling realization that familiarity can mask intent. Even as sentences were read, the impact of Emily's story extended beyond the courtroom. Vigils continued, riverbanks remained sites of reflection, and memorials took shape in subtle ways. Benches engraved with her name, trees planted in her memory, and community initiatives designed to prevent future tragedies. The arrest had provided a narrative closure, yet the town remained acutely aware of the fragility of safety. Marcus, walking the streets late at night, noted lingering shadows, empty windows, and the quiet hum of reflection. Each step echoed with history, each glance revealed memory, and each conversation carried the weight of collective experience. The layers of investigation, testimony, and forensic analysis coalesced into a portrait of meticulous evil, but also one of resilience. Emily's family, though forever altered, demonstrated strength, engaging in advocacy, community engagement, and education. Neighbors and acquaintances, once shaken to their core, began the slow process of reconciliation with reality, balancing grief with the need to restore a semblance of normalcy. The town, while stunned by the unexpected arrest, began to navigate the delicate process of healing, aware that the past, though uncovered, remained inseparable from the present. Marcus reflected on the nuances of the case, recognizing that the true challenge of solving a cold case extended far beyond the collection of evidence. It encompassed the reconstruction of memory, the validation of trauma, and the careful navigation of communal grief. The arrest marked a critical milestone, yet it was merely the beginning of understanding, of contextualizing, and of integrating the lessons of 2 decades into the social fabric of Harrow Creek. Each step forward was laden with the weight of history, and each conversation carried echoes of Emily's presence, absent but profoundly felt. As night fell over the town, fog rolled across the river, curling around the edges of streetlights, casting long, distorted shadows. Marcus walked the familiar path along the riverbank, recalling the long nights of investigation, the endless reports, the painstaking reconstructions, and the emotional toll. The arrest had provided answers, but it had not returned what was lost. Emily's absence remained a constant, a reminder that closure is complex, layered, and rarely complete. Harrow Creek, though forever altered, would carry her memory, her story, and the lessons of vigilance, resilience, and the unexpected proximity of darkness. Even after the courtroom doors closed and the gavel fell, Harrow Creek was not silent. The town pulsed with an undercurrent of unease, a tension that threaded through the streets like a low hum. Residents walked with cautious deliberation, glances flicking to faces that once seemed familiar but now carried an unspoken weight. Emily's story had transformed from tragedy into legend, whispered in homes, schools, and workplaces, a haunting reminder that innocence could vanish in the fog of a single night. Marcus Harlow returned to the riverbank late one evening, fog curling over the water, reflecting the dim glow of streetlights. The same path Emily had once walked stretched before him, ordinary and yet imbued with a sinister history. The investigation had concluded legally, but emotionally, the threads of the story remained tangled, each knot a memory, a fear, a question without answer. Forensic teams continued to comb through evidence, uncovering subtle details previously overlooked. Soil composition from the suspect's truck revealed microscopic traces that matched distant sections of the riverbank, corroborating the reconstructed timeline. Fibers from clothing, once considered incidental, were reanalyzed with advanced techniques, confirming contact in ways that left little room for dispute. Every piece of evidence was another layer of the story, a testament to meticulous observation, persistence, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Marcus watched as each discovery was cataloged, analyzed, and integrated, aware that these small fragments were the building blocks of justice and, paradoxically, the anchors of communal trauma. The town, in turn, absorbed each revelation like a tidal wave, balancing relief with a persistent, gnawing unease. Emily's family, meanwhile, navigated a landscape both familiar and alien. Relief at the arrest interwove with grief and disbelief. They revisited old locations, retraced her final steps, and examined evidence that had been hidden for years. Every detail, every trace, brought clarity yet deepened sorrow. Marcus accompanied them occasionally, guiding the process, offering professional insight, and sometimes simply providing presence. The river, the diner, the winding streets of Harrow Creek all became sites of reflection, places where past and present converged. The emotional weight of 2 decades pressed on every visit, a reminder that closure, while sought after, is often partial, a fragile balm over enduring wounds. The community's response was multifaceted. Schools incorporated discussions on safety, awareness, and the subtle signs of danger. Parents fortified routines, emphasizing vigilance, teaching lessons born of tragedy. Civic leaders organized meetings, counseling sessions, and forums, offering residents a space to process lingering fear. Conversations buzzed with speculation, memory, and interpretation. Each interaction carried the weight of the case, and each person, knowingly or not, became part of the narrative, a participant in the town's slow reconciliation with its altered identity. Marcus noted how ordinary routines now bore an overlay of caution, how once comfortable spaces felt subtly charged, and how every familiar face was viewed with a measured awareness of possibility. Within law enforcement, analysis continued. The suspect's digital footprint was reconstructed meticulously, revealing a pattern of monitoring, calculated manipulation, and concealed movement. Deleted files, encrypted messages, and subtle inconsistencies painted a picture of someone who had navigated the town with skill, avoiding suspicion, masking intent, and exploiting trust. Each revelation deepened the horror. A community had been observed, manipulated, and betrayed, yet the mechanisms of concealment were sophisticated, designed to obscure and distract. Marcus and his team documented everything, aware that understanding motive, method, and opportunity was critical not only for legal closure, but for historical clarity. The town's collective psyche demanded explanation, even as the emotional residue persisted. Neighbors revisited interactions from the past, reconstructing subtle anomalies. A friendly wave remembered differently, a detour through a side street reconsidered. The way headlights flickered in foggy nights recalled with newfound significance. Each memory became a potential clue, each recollection a puzzle piece, yet the fragments resisted easy assembly. Marcus understood that human memory is imperfect, influenced by fear, time, and hindsight. Yet even imperfect recollection contributed to a mosaic of understanding, providing texture to the otherwise stark forensic narrative. The town's shared history became a living archive, a testament to both vulnerability and resilience, the duality of experience now inseparable from the events of March 2000. Media coverage remained intense. Journalists, eager for insight, dissected testimony, analyzed forensic evidence, and speculated on motives. The town, while wary of intrusion, also found a form of validation in public attention. Stories in newspapers and broadcasts framed the arrest as the climax of a long, tense narrative, yet Marcus noted the tension between storytelling and reality. Each headline, each segment, brought both clarity and distortion, reinforcing the need for careful, methodical analysis alongside emotional support. Residents consumed news with a mixture of fascination and fear, absorbing details that simultaneously reassured and unsettled, reminding them of the fragility of perception and the persistence of threat. Marcus's nights were often spent retracing steps alone, the fog thick around him, the river silent, but for the occasional ripple. He visualized the night of the disappearance repeatedly, noting the sequence of events, the suspect's potential observations, and the precise orchestration required to evade notice. Every detail mattered: timing, movement, proximity, shadows. The detective's mind became a map of the town, each street, alley, and riverbank cross-referenced with evidence and memory. The depth of planning revealed in the suspect's actions left Marcus both impressed and horrified, a testament to human ingenuity employed toward malevolent ends. Community healing remained tentative. Vigil after vigil, residents gathered to honor Emily's memory, lighting candles, sharing stories, and acknowledging loss. Conversations revisited the night of March 12, 2000, examining both the horror of disappearance and the resilience of collective experience. Families drew closer, yet shadows of suspicion persisted, subtle and unrelenting. Each neighborhood event, each school activity, carried undercurrents of caution, the lessons of observation and trust freshly etched into consciousness. Emily's absence remained palpable, an emotional presence that informed daily life and collective identity, shaping behaviors, expectations, and interactions. The trial's aftermath highlighted a crucial dynamic. While legal closure provides resolution, the emotional and psychological dimensions persist. Marcus facilitated debriefings, worked with counselors, and helped coordinate community forums. Each session revealed lingering questions: the nature of trust, the mechanics of concealment, and the consequences of observation without intervention. Residents struggled to reconcile the predictability of ordinary life with the unpredictability of human malevolence. Emily's story became a prism through which the town examined vulnerability, resilience, and the boundaries between familiarity and threat. The suspect's own behavior during post-arrest proceedings revealed layers of manipulation, control, and subtle deflection. Statements, gestures, and inconsistencies were dissected by investigators and legal teams, illuminating patterns of thought that had enabled the prolonged concealment. Marcus recognized the necessity of documenting these patterns not only for legal completeness, but to understand the social and psychological dynamics that allowed such a crime to remain undetected. The lessons extended beyond the courtroom, informing policy, community awareness, and preventive measures. Harrow Creek, forever altered, became a case study in vigilance, observation, and the delicate interplay of trust and suspicion. Even with progress, the town's nights carried a lingering unease. Fog rolled over streets, riverbanks glistened under moonlight, and shadows seemed to move with intent. Residents spoke quietly, children asked questions, and adults reconsidered routines. The presence of Emily, though absent physically, dominated consciousness, framing daily interactions, perceptions, and cautionary behaviors. Marcus noted how environmental cues, light, sound, movement, triggered memories and reflections in both himself and community members, a reminder that closure is multifaceted, encompassing legal, psychological, and communal dimensions. The riverbank, central to the narrative, became both a memorial and a locus of reflection. Marcus walked the edges, noting erosion, subtle disturbances, and patterns previously unnoticed. Each visit offered insight, context, and perspective, reinforcing the detective's understanding of spatial dynamics, temporal sequences, and human behavior. The site remained charged with significance, a physical reminder of absence, a symbolic anchor of investigation, and a space where the town collectively processed memory, grief, and understanding. As the days passed, routine slowly returned, but the shadow of the case lingered. Community engagement increased, programs for awareness and safety expanded, and educational initiatives incorporated lessons learned from Emily's disappearance. Marcus observed the subtle transformation, vigilance tempered with resilience, grief balanced with determination, and fear moderated by knowledge. The town, while forever changed, began to reconstruct its identity, acknowledging that darkness had walked among them but had been illuminated, contained, and confronted through persistence, analysis, and shared resolve. Even as Harrow Creek tried to settle into a tentative rhythm, the undercurrent of unease persisted, threading through conversations, schoolyards, and homes like a silent pulse. People moved through the town with a quiet wariness, small gestures, gazes over shoulders, cautious greetings, marked by the lingering echo of what had transpired. Marcus Harlow continued his meticulous work, retracing the sequence of events that had led to Emily's disappearance. Each step revealed subtleties previously overlooked, faint tire marks in dirt lots, impressions in soft earth, and the way shadows shifted under the moonlight, potentially concealing movement or signaling the presence of an observer. Every detail mattered. The night of March 12, 2000, had unfolded like a dark choreography, one designed with such precision that only now, nearly 2 decades later, could the mechanics be understood. The suspect, despite being in custody, continued to manipulate perception. Subtle shifts in demeanor, carefully chosen words, and moments of feigned remorse created an intricate psychological game. Marcus studied these behaviors with a forensic eye, aware that understanding motive and intent was as crucial as the tangible evidence. The suspect had hidden in plain sight, using charm, familiarity, and community trust to obscure sinister designs. Residents, forced to reconsider interactions long past, grappled with the unsettling realization that ordinary people can mask extraordinary malevolence. Each recollection, once mundane, was now a potential clue, a link in the chain of manipulation that had allowed the crime to remain unsolved for years. New forensic insights added depth to the investigation. Advances in trace analysis revealed previously unnoticed particles embedded in the suspect's vehicle and clothing, microscopic remnants that tied locations, objects, and timelines together. Soil samples, once insufficient for legal proof, now provided definitive confirmation of movement and presence. Fibers, reanalyzed with updated technology, established contact points and sequences with chilling precision. Every fragment reconstructed the events of that night, a testament to both the suspect's meticulous planning and the investigators' dogged perseverance. The town, observing from a distance, absorbed the weight of these discoveries, alternating between relief, disbelief, and the cold awareness of proximity to danger. Emily's family navigated an emotional labyrinth. Relief at the arrest was tempered by the resurgence of grief, as hidden details and revelations brought memories of lost years into stark focus. They revisited the riverbank, her favorite walking paths, the diner where she had worked, each location now a site of reflection and mourning. Marcus accompanied them occasionally, noting subtle behaviors, clenched hands, lingering gazes, whispered recollections. These visits were both healing and haunting, underscoring that legal closure addresses only one dimension of trauma. Emotional reconciliation was ongoing, shaped by persistent reminders of absence and the unpredictability of human behavior. Community reactions remained complex. Schools implemented safety workshops, emphasizing observation, situational awareness, and the subtle signs of potential threat. Parents reinforced boundaries, vigilance, and emergency planning. Civic forums became spaces for collective processing, allowing residents to discuss fear, resilience, and trust in measured tones. Conversations in coffee shops, grocery stores, and homes often revolved around hypothetical scenarios, reflective exercises, and lessons drawn from Emily's story. Marcus noted how ordinary routines now carried an overlay of caution, how once trusted faces prompted second glances, and how the town collectively reevaluated the meaning of safety, familiarity, and human unpredictability. In parallel, media coverage intensified. Local and national outlets dissected every detail, replaying testimony, analyzing forensic breakthroughs, and speculating on motive. Cameras followed court appearances, courthouse steps, and community reactions. Headlines ranged from triumphant declarations of justice to unsettling reflections on trust betrayed. Residents watched, listened, and discussed, interpreting narratives through the lens of personal experience, each perspective influenced by proximity to events, emotional investment, and lingering suspicion. Marcus observed the interplay between public narrative and private reality, aware that media could simultaneously clarify and distort, inform and unsettle. Marcus continued detailed reconstructions of the night in question. Using spatial analysis, timelines, and forensic overlays, he visualized the suspect's movements, the sequence of Emily's steps, and the environmental conditions. Fog density, streetlight placement, ambient noise, all factored into the complex puzzle. The reconstruction revealed a pattern of calculated manipulation, surveillance of routes, timing of intersections, exploitation of natural cover, and the isolation of Emily from potential witnesses. It was a choreography executed with terrifying precision, demonstrating the deliberate orchestration that had allowed the crime to remain undetected for so long. Community engagement deepened. Town halls and neighborhood meetings provided structured forums for reflection, learning, and resilience building. Stories were shared, insights exchanged, and educational programs implemented. Marcus facilitated discussions on observation, vigilance, and risk assessment, drawing lessons directly from the investigation while being sensitive to emotional impact. The town began to rebuild its social fabric, balancing acknowledgement of danger with steps toward normalization, understanding that memory, grief, and vigilance would coexist indefinitely. Psychological analysis of the suspect revealed intricate layers of planning and manipulation. Behavioral experts described a pattern of predation masked by social charm and strategic invisibility. Subtle misdirections, crafted narratives, and carefully timed actions had created a veil of normalcy. Marcus documented these findings meticulously, understanding that such insights were critical not only for prosecution but also for community awareness and preventive measures. The insights provided a framework for residents to conceptualize threat, trust, and deception, illuminating the intersection of human behavior, crime, and social perception. The trial, though concluded legally, continued to resonate. Every testimony, every forensic report, every recounting of interaction with Emily added to the complex tapestry of understanding. Residents revisited memories, connecting fragments to build comprehension of the suspect's behavior. Conversations in homes, schools, and public spaces were marked by the duality of closure and ongoing psychological impact. Emily's story, now fully contextualized in evidence and narrative, remained a living presence, influencing behavior, perception, and community cohesion. Marcus's nightly reflections on the riverbank grew more nuanced. He examined soil disturbances, vegetation patterns, and light angles, translating physical spaces into temporal and behavioral insights. Each detail offered understanding, yet also reinforced the emotional weight carried by the town. Emily's absence was felt in every shadow, every ripple on the river, every fog-laden street. The legal resolution did not erase these impressions. It merely framed them within a context of understanding and accountability. The detective's meticulous attention to spatial and temporal dynamics became a tool not only for forensic clarity, but for communal reassurance, bridging the gap between absence and understanding. Even in the wake of resolution, Harrow Creek remained vigilant. Foggy mornings, echoing footsteps, and the glint of headlights in mist reminded residents of fragility, of the unpredictability of human intent. Emily's story permeated education, civic discourse, and daily observation. Marcus observed subtle transformations, parents instructing children with renewed specificity, neighbors exchanging signals of awareness, and community leaders embedding lessons of vigilance into routines. The town, forever altered, adapted, carrying forward both trauma and resilience as intertwined legacies of a single night in March 2000. Forensic analysis continued behind the scenes, reinforcing prior conclusions while uncovering incremental details. Microscopic residues, trace particles, and fiber comparisons created an ever-clearer map of movement, interaction, and concealment. Each revelation, while technical, carried emotional and social weight, confirming the deliberate orchestration of events and the precise manipulation of environmental and social variables. Marcus documented findings with care, cognizant of the interplay between factual clarity and the human dimension of fear, grief, and community trust. The riverbank, the diner, the winding streets, all remained charged with memory. Emily's absence, her presence in recollection, and the meticulous unraveling of her disappearance shaped everyday interactions. Marcus noted how ambient cues, wind patterns, distant voices, flickering lights, triggered memory and reflection in both himself and residents. The past and present intertwined in tangible ways, illustrating that closure, while legally achievable, is emotionally complex, layered, and enduring. Harrow Creek's slow recovery was punctuated by moments of reflection, educational initiatives, and memorialization. Benches engraved with Emily's name, trees planted in her honor, and community safety programs became symbols of resilience. Yet beneath the surface, the memory of the night remained palpable, a constant reminder of both vulnerability and the capacity for observation, analysis, and perseverance to illuminate hidden truth. Marcus, walking these familiar paths, recognized the delicate balance between justice served and trauma endured, understanding that the shadow of March 12, 2000, would never fully dissipate. The nights in Harrow Creek had grown quieter, yet the silence carried its own tension, thick and palpable, as if the town itself held its breath. Marcus Harlow moved along familiar streets, retracing patterns, reviewing evidence, replaying memories of Emily's last known moments. Streetlights cast long, distorted shadows that twisted like fingers across sidewalks, echoing the lingering presence of a crime long buried and now partially exhumed. Each step, each glance, reminded him that even with the suspect in custody, the emotional landscape of the town remained unsettled. Residents moved with cautious deliberation, their routines adjusted by the invisible imprint of fear and memory. The town's collective consciousness had shifted, subtly but irrevocably, tethered to the legacy of that March night in 2000. Marcus focused on gaps that remained in the narrative, moments where physical evidence intersected with human perception. A neighbor's recollection of headlights flickering near the riverbank, once dismissed as inconsequential, now carried the weight of potential witness activity. Another remembered a faint, almost imperceptible sound, doors closing, footsteps, a muffled echo that, when correlated with forensic timelines, suggested movement in tandem with the suspect's meticulously planned route. Each fragment of memory, Each overlooked detail was a thread in the intricate tapestry of deception and concealment. Marcus charted these fragments with painstaking precision, aware that understanding the subtle orchestration of events was key to comprehending both motive and method. Emily's family continued their personal journey through grief, relief, and lingering doubt. Visits to the riverbank became rituals of reflection, each footstep along familiar paths a meditation on absence and memory. Conversations with Marcus were long, quiet, and reflective, delving into sequences of events, potential deviations, and the psychological profile of the suspect. The detective's careful guidance helped the family process revelations, placing each discovery into context while acknowledging the deep, persistent wound of loss. Emotional closure, they realized, was not a destination but a process, a series of negotiated steps through grief, memory, and resilience. In parallel, the town's schools and civic organizations intensified programs focused on awareness and prevention. Workshops taught observation skills, situational assessment, and subtle cues of potential danger. Parents reinforced vigilance and established routines that were simultaneously protective and practical. Community meetings provided structured forums for reflection, discussion, and resilience building, allowing residents to reconcile fear with agency. Marcus observed these initiatives with cautious optimism, noting that while legal closure was crucial, the educational and psychological dimensions were equally significant in reconstructing a sense of communal safety. The town's identity, reshaped by trauma, began to adapt to a new paradigm, one where vigilance coexisted with everyday life and knowledge tempered fear without erasing memory. Forensic exploration continued, revealing details previously obscured by technological limitations. Trace evidence in the suspect's vehicle and personal spaces, once marginal, now illuminated movement, contact, and concealment. Soil analysis, fiber matching, and microscopic residue tracing reconstructed sequences of action with unprecedented clarity. Every detail, while technical, resonated emotionally, reinforcing the meticulous planning that had allowed the crime to remain hidden. Marcus meticulously cataloged these findings, aware that the evidence served not only judicial purposes, but also as a framework for understanding the psychological and social dimensions of the crime. The town absorbed each revelation with a mixture of relief, awe, and renewed wariness, balancing closure with an acknowledgement of vulnerability. The suspect's psychological profile became a focal point of analysis. Behavioral specialists described a pattern of predation marked by patience, observation, and strategic invisibility. Social charm, careful misdirection, and familiarity had concealed intent, allowing the suspect to navigate Harrow Creek undetected for years. Marcus studied these findings closely, understanding that insights into motive and methodology were essential not only for prosecution but also for shaping community awareness and educational strategies. The analysis highlighted the delicate intersection of trust, observation, and deception, providing a lens through which the town could process the extraordinary breach of expectation and security. The trial's aftermath remained charged with tension. Residents crowded courtrooms and public spaces, absorbing testimony, forensic reports, and expert analyses. Every word, every piece of evidence, forced them to reevaluate past interactions, gestures, and assumptions. The suspect's carefully constructed facade crumbled under scrutiny, revealing patterns of manipulation, concealment, and cold deliberation. Marcus noted the duality. The legal resolution provided clarity and accountability, yet the emotional and psychological ripples extended far beyond the courthouse walls. Emily's story continued to shape perceptions, behaviors, and communal identity, a haunting presence intertwined with daily life. Nightly patrols, both by law enforcement and residents, became part of the town's rhythm. Streetlights glimmered over misty roads, reflections rippled in the river, and the subtle sounds of movement, footsteps, distant vehicles, rustling leaves, were interpreted with heightened awareness. Marcus, walking these routes, visualized the suspect's movements, reconstructing actions and intent, noting environmental variables, timing, and subtle interactions. Each walk reinforced the precision of the original crime and the emotional weight carried by the town. The detective understood that reconstruction was as much a psychological exercise as a forensic one, bridging the gap between tangible evidence and lived experience. Emily's family engaged in advocacy, transforming grief into proactive initiatives. Programs focused on safety, community awareness, and trauma response provided tangible outlets for emotion and reflection. Visits to schools, public forums, and civic organizations allowed them to share experiences, instilling lessons born of loss and resilience. Marcus observed the subtle shift in community dynamics. Grief, when channeled through action, could foster cohesion, awareness, and preparation. The town, while scarred, demonstrated adaptability, integrating lessons from trauma into routines, interactions, and educational structures. Emily's presence, though absent physically, became an enduring force shaping communal identity. The riverbank, once a site of mystery and despair, evolved into a locus of reflection and memory. Environmental observations, patterns of erosion, shifts in vegetation, subtle signs of disturbance, provided insight into the night's events while grounding the town in a tangible connection to history. Marcus traced footprints, measured distances, and mapped sight lines, reconstructing sequences with painstaking care. Each analysis contributed to a nuanced understanding of the spatial and temporal dynamics that had allowed the suspect's actions to go undetected. The site became simultaneously a memorial, a tool for analysis, and a symbol of vigilance. Even as months passed, subtle indicators of psychological tension persisted in Harrow Creek. Residents adjusted behaviors, teaching children situational awareness, reinforcing observation, and sharing reflections on trust and caution. Public discussions emphasized vigilance without paranoia, awareness without fear, and resilience alongside remembrance. Marcus facilitated these dialogues, linking forensic and behavioral insights to everyday practice. The town navigated a delicate equilibrium, honoring Emily's memory, recognizing vulnerability, and asserting communal strength. Each conversation, observation, and initiative contributed to a gradually restoring social fabric, though the shadow of the original crime remained ever present. The ongoing study of the suspect's behavior illuminated the complexity of concealment and manipulation. Patterns of observation, exploitation of routine, and the calculated masking of intent revealed a level of foresight that challenged conventional assumptions about opportunity and detection. Marcus integrated these findings into community awareness programs, translating professional insight into practical guidance. Residents learned to interpret subtle cues, assess environments, and recognize patterns of behavior, bridging the gap between professional analysis and everyday vigilance. The lessons of Emily's disappearance became embedded in the town's consciousness, a blend of caution, understanding, and adaptive resilience. As night fell, fog rolling over the river and streets, Marcus reflected on the paradox of closure. The arrest, the trial, the forensic clarity, all provided answers, yet the psychological and emotional dimensions remained complex, unresolved, and persistent. Residents walked familiar streets with heightened awareness, schools taught lessons of vigilance, and Emily's family continued advocacy, bridging grief with proactive action. The town, forever altered, navigated the interplay between fear, knowledge, and resilience, carrying forward lessons etched in both memory and the physical landscape of Harrow Creek. The town of Harrow Creek seemed calm under the fog-draped evening, yet every shadow whispered reminders of the past. Every silent street carried the weight of nearly 2 decades of unanswered questions. Marcus Harlow walked slowly along the riverbank, the water glinting dimly under pale moonlight, retracing the steps he had memorized in excruciating detail. Each stone, each depression in the dirt, each flicker of light through the fog became a landmark in a map of horror that had remained obscured for years. The arrest had brought legal closure, but the psychological impact lingered like a persistent hum in the air. Residents moved with cautious awareness, friends glanced more carefully, and ordinary routines were infused with an undercurrent of vigilance. Even familiar places, the diner, the school, the small grocery store, were charged with memory, a subtle tension that could be felt in the quiet pauses between conversations. Marcus reviewed evidence one last time in his mind before the trial's sentencing phase. Fiber samples, soil traces, digital timestamps, all meticulously cataloged, revealed a sequence of movements that was both methodical and chillingly precise. The suspect's manipulation had extended beyond the crime itself, shaping the perception of everyone around, creating a world in which Emily could vanish without immediate detection. Each new forensic breakthrough added weight to the narrative. A single misplaced hair, a faint footprint on damp soil, a digital record of location, all fragments converging to reconstruct the night with brutal clarity. The town, while relieved at the arrest, was still grappling with the enormity of what had been hidden in plain sight for so long. Every familiar face now carried the potential for hidden intent, and Marcus noted the subtle changes in neighborly interactions, the careful adjustments in community behavior. Emily's family, still navigating the emotional labyrinth of grief and relief, revisited critical locations with renewed focus. The riverbank, once a symbol of absence and fear, became a site for reflection, memory, and a fragile form of healing. Each step they took was measured, laden with remembrance, each glance across the water a silent dialogue with what had been lost. Marcus accompanied them frequently, observing the ways trauma etched itself into posture, expression, and speech. The weight of unresolved questions hung like a specter. Could more have been done? Were there signs they had missed? The arrest answered the who and the how, but the why remained elusive, layered with psychological complexity that defied simple resolution. Community programs continued to expand, emphasizing observation, situational awareness, and personal safety. Schools incorporated lessons inspired by the case, teaching children to recognize subtle cues of potential danger while reinforcing resilience. Parents adjusted routines, establishing subtle protocols for vigilance without fostering fear. Civic meetings and forums provided platforms for shared reflection, allowing residents to process lingering tension and collectively reconstruct a sense of communal security. Marcus observed the slow, careful weaving of these lessons into daily life, noting that while fear persisted, knowledge and preparation offered a counterbalance, a framework for resilience grounded in understanding rather than paranoia. Forensic analysis continued to illuminate new layers. Microscopic residues, previously undetectable, revealed contact points confirming sequences of events. Soil composition, fiber analysis, and environmental reconstruction solidified the timeline with precision, connecting the suspect to locations, objects, and moments previously considered ambiguous. Marcus documented every detail meticulously, recognizing that while these findings strengthened the legal narrative, they also provided insight into human behavior, how planning, patience, and attention to detail could enable someone to exploit trust and familiarity with devastating effect. Each revelation deepened the town's awareness of vulnerability, prompting a reevaluation of assumptions, interactions, and perceptions of safety. The suspect's behavior during post-arrest proceedings provided additional insight into manipulation and control. Subtle facial expressions, calculated pauses, and selective admissions revealed a pattern of psychological gamesmanship designed to obscure truth and maintain influence. Marcus and behavioral experts analyzed these interactions, translating observed behaviors into actionable understanding for both the investigation and community education. Residents, exposed to public reporting on these analyses, began to internalize lessons about deception, intent, and the importance of observation, integrating them into social and familial routines. The interplay between professional insight and lived experience created a dynamic process of learning, reflection, and cautious adaptation within Harrow Creek. As the sentencing phase approached, tension across the town reached a crescendo. Courthouse corridors were crowded, local media thrived on minute-by-minute updates, and residents lingered outside to catch glimpses of proceedings. Each day of testimony reopened old wounds, forcing the community to relive the horror of Emily's disappearance, the meticulous concealment, and the long shadow of uncertainty. Marcus observed the complex interplay of relief, shock, and lingering suspicion among residents, recognizing that closure, while legally imposed, would coexist with psychological impact indefinitely. Emily's story had become inseparable from the town's identity, a lens through which every action, interaction, and decision was subtly refracted. During court proceedings, unexpected details emerged that renewed collective anxiety. A witness, previously dismissed, came forward with a subtle observation about the suspect's movements near the riverbank on the night of the disappearance. The testimony, corroborated by forensic mapping, added nuance to the timeline, revealing an even more calculated orchestration than previously understood. The courtroom absorbed the tension, silence punctuated by gasps and murmurs. Marcus noted the psychological effect on the audience. Recognition of the degree of planning intensified both fear and fascination, underscoring the sophistication and patience underlying the crime. Each revelation reinforced the fragile nature of trust and the profound consequences of deception left undetected for decades. Emily's family, sitting through these proceedings, experienced a resurgence of emotion, grief mixed with vindication, sorrow tempered by understanding, and relief overshadowed by the lingering incompleteness of answers. Each testimony, each forensic explanation, reconstructed fragments of a reality that had been obscured, yet highlighted the complexity of the human mind and the capacity for malevolence hidden in plain sight. Marcus witnessed the oscillation of emotion, the way trauma could coexist with comprehension, and the way resilience emerged not from erasure of pain but from its integration into awareness and action. Outside the courthouse, the town's streets thrummed with tension. Conversations oscillated between speculation, memory, and reflection. Residents discussed subtle signs previously unnoticed, behaviors that now carried ominous significance, and the implications of a long-hidden predation. Schools reinforced vigilance programs, and local organizations organized forums to help process lingering trauma. The community's response was multifaceted. Grief, caution, education, and adaptive resilience intertwined, reflecting both the shock of revelation and the determination to navigate forward with awareness. Marcus observed how social behaviors shifted subtly, with ordinary gestures imbued with new context and every familiar routine layered with cautious observation. The riverbank, central to the case, remained a site of both memory and analysis. Marcus revisited the location repeatedly, noting erosion, vegetation patterns, and microenvironmental changes that informed the reconstruction of events. Footprints, soil impressions, and ambient environmental factors provided insight into sequences and timings that had previously been opaque. The analysis reinforced the understanding of meticulous planning, the manipulation of environmental and social factors, and the psychological strategies employed by the suspect to obscure intent. For the town, the site was a tangible reminder of both absence and awareness, a locus for memory, reflection, and the cultivation of vigilance. Emily's story continued to shape the town's identity. Advocacy initiatives led by her family emphasized education, awareness, and community cohesion. Parents and educators integrated lessons learned into everyday routines, balancing vigilance with normalcy. Residents reflected on past interactions, reconsidering the ordinary in light of extraordinary events. Marcus noted the subtle but persistent integration of experience into collective consciousness. Knowledge, observation, and caution became part of the social fabric, tempered by resilience and the desire to maintain continuity of daily life despite awareness of past vulnerability. Even as months passed, subtle indicators of psychological tension persisted. Shadows in familiar spaces, distant footsteps, the flicker of headlights in fog. These cues evoked memory, reflection, and heightened vigilance. Marcus understood that while legal closure had been achieved, the emotional and psychological dimensions of the case would persist indefinitely, shaping the town's behaviors, perceptions, and interpersonal dynamics. Emily's absence, paradoxically, remained a central presence, a force shaping collective consciousness, embedding lessons of vigilance, resilience, and awareness into the fabric of daily life. The suspect's behavior in private communications, now under review, revealed additional layers of control and concealment. Patterns of surveillance, manipulation, and strategic invisibility demonstrated a level of foresight and patience that heightened both fear and fascination. Marcus documented these details carefully, integrating them into both the legal narrative and community education initiatives. Harrow Creek's residents absorbed these revelations, internalizing caution and awareness, while attempting to balance fear with practical, proactive engagement. The lessons of the crime, etched in forensic evidence and behavioral analysis, became tools for communal resilience, transforming trauma into adaptive understanding. As night fell over Harrow Creek, fog drifted across the river, curling around streetlights and darkened corners. Marcus walked familiar paths, reflecting on sequences of events, forensic detail, and psychological insight. He recognized that closure is multifaceted. Legal resolution addresses accountability, but emotional and social healing unfolds over years, shaped by memory, reflection, and communal adaptation. Emily's story, though rooted in tragedy, had become a catalyst for awareness, education, and vigilance, ensuring that while absence remained, the lessons extracted from it could guide a community toward resilience, understanding, and cautious hope. The fog hung low over Harrow Creek, curling around the street lamps like ghostly fingers, and the town breathed with a tension that refused to dissipate. Even with the suspect behind bars, every corner, every familiar street seemed imbued with memory and warning. Marcus Harlow walked the riverbank alone, retracing the subtle angles, dips, and curves that had defined Emily's final journey. Each step was measured, deliberate, as he visualized the sequence of events in his mind. Every shadow, every reflection, every small environmental cue mapped meticulously. It was a choreography of fear, and the town, though oblivious in the moment, had been both audience and unwitting participant. The arrest had satisfied the law, but the human heart and collective psyche remained unsettled. New forensic developments continued to emerge, almost imperceptibly at first, then with mounting significance. Trace elements in the suspect's clothing and vehicle were matched to distant areas of the riverbank, confirming movement and contact that had been speculative for years. Fibers once dismissed as irrelevant now created tangible links between objects, people, and locations. Even the faintest soil deposits revealed secrets when analyzed with updated techniques, revealing meticulous planning and concealment. Each detail added layers to the narrative, demonstrating the extent of calculation, patience, and foresight involved in the crime. Marcus documented every connection, aware that understanding these subtleties was as critical for historical clarity as it was for emotional reconciliation. Emily's family, navigating the complicated terrain of grief and tentative closure, continued their visits to key locations. The riverbank, the diner, and the winding streets of the town became sacred spaces of memory. Each step brought reflection, each glance evoked sorrow. Marcus observed the subtle ways trauma etched itself into posture, voice, and gaze, noting the delicate oscillation between hope, despair, and resilience. The arrest had answered the question of culpability, yet the why, the psychological calculus that enabled such deception, remained elusive, leaving emotional ripples that would persist long after legal proceedings concluded. The community, meanwhile, responded in layers of complexity. Schools reinforced programs on awareness, observation, and subtle cues of danger, emphasizing both vigilance and resilience. Parents adopted routines infused with caution, teaching children to navigate the familiar with careful attention. Civic forums provided structured opportunities for dialogue, reflection, and communal processing. Conversations buzzed with memory, speculation, and cautious analysis, intertwining past trauma with present caution. Marcus noted how ordinary interactions carried the echo of the crime. A glance across a street, a lingering look in a hallway, or a sudden awareness of movement could trigger a cascade of reflection and vigilance. Within law enforcement, Marcus and his team continued to explore behavioral patterns, searching for deeper understanding of the suspect's manipulations. Surveillance techniques, Digital communications and movement patterns were dissected meticulously, revealing an extraordinary capacity for calculation, patience, and psychological control. The suspect's ability to exploit trust, familiarity, and routine underscored a chilling sophistication. Marcus realized that these insights were not merely academic. They were critical tools for educating the community, preventing future harm, and providing a framework for understanding the intersections of human behavior and criminal intent. Court proceedings had created a living memory of events. Each testimony, forensic report, and expert analysis forced residents to relive the horror and intricacy of the crime. Witnesses offered nuanced observations that clarified moments previously obscured by time. Subtle actions, once dismissed, were now understood as evidence of careful orchestration. The courtroom was charged with tension, each revelation eliciting gasps, murmurs, and reflection. Marcus observed how the collective memory of Harrow Creek was being rewritten, shaped by evidence, testimony, and communal interpretation. The town had become both witness and participant, its consciousness altered by decades of absence and revelation. Emily's family, observing proceedings, oscillated between sorrow and relief. Each new detail deepened comprehension while simultaneously reopening emotional wounds. Marcus witnessed the duality of closure and persistent trauma, recognizing that understanding the mechanics of a crime does not erase its emotional imprint. The riverbank, the streets, the familiar corners of the town, they remained saturated with memory, each infused with lessons of vigilance, perception, and cautious optimism. Closure existed legally, yet emotionally it was partial, layered with memory, grief, and a subtle, pervasive unease. Outside the courthouse, Harrow Creek continued to pulse with quiet tension. Conversations, gestures, and routines were subtly altered. Residents recounted overlooked details, reassessed familiar interactions, and integrated lessons from the case into daily life. Educational and civic programs reinforced awareness, teaching observation, critical thinking, and subtle recognition of potential threat. Marcus noted the gradual shaping of communal consciousness, ordinary life overlaid with vigilance, grief tempered by resilience, and trust redefined by insight and careful reflection. The town, scarred yet enduring, navigated the delicate balance between fear, understanding, and adaptive behavior. The riverbank, central to both the crime and its investigation, became a locus of detailed analysis. Marcus revisited environmental patterns, erosion, vegetation, footprints, and ambient variables. Each element contributed to a precise reconstruction of the night, revealing an extraordinary level of planning and manipulation. Light angles, wind direction, and natural sound masking were all accounted for, exposing the calculated orchestration of movements designed to obscure and conceal. For the town, the site remained a memorial of absence, a center of reflection, and a reminder of vigilance. Its physical presence reinforced the emotional and psychological landscape, embedding awareness in both body and mind. Even months after the arrest, subtle psychological tension persisted throughout Harrow Creek. Shadows in familiar spaces, distant footsteps, and unexpected lights triggered reflection and caution. Marcus understood that while legal resolution satisfied accountability, the emotional and social dimensions were ongoing, shaping perception, behavior, and community dynamics. Emily's absence, paradoxically, had become a presence, guiding thought, shaping routines, and embedding lessons of observation, vigilance, and emotional resilience into the fabric of daily life. Unexpectedly, new evidence emerged from previously overlooked storage, files, photographs, and digital traces that revealed additional planning and monitoring by the suspect. Marcus analyzed these materials carefully, noting patterns of premeditation, calculated observation, and psychological manipulation. The findings were both chilling and clarifying. They demonstrated that the suspect's planning extended far beyond immediate action, exploiting time, environment, and human behavior to maintain concealment. For the community, these revelations reinforced the necessity of awareness, observation, and education, underscoring the delicate interplay between perception, trust, and deception. Emily's story, while rooted in tragedy, had transformed the town. Advocacy programs, educational initiatives, and civic dialogues proliferated, reflecting both grief and a proactive commitment to safety and awareness. Marcus observed how these efforts, while subtle, were reshaping social dynamics. Ordinary gestures now carried intention, community awareness integrated vigilance, and memory intertwined with action. The lessons of the case became embedded in the town's identity, a synthesis of trauma, resilience, and cautious hope. As night deepened, fog rolling across streets and river alike, Marcus contemplated the paradox of closure. Legal resolution provided accountability, forensic detail illuminated the sequence of events, behavioral analysis revealed motive and method, but the emotional and psychological imprint endured. Emily's absence, the lingering tension, and the community's altered consciousness created a complex landscape of memory, vigilance, and reflection. The town, forever transformed, navigated between awareness and normalcy, trauma and resilience, fear and cautious hope, carrying forward lessons forged in the shadow of a single, unforgettable night in March 2000. The fog rolled thicker across Harrow Creek, swallowing the streets in a gray hush, yet every shadow seemed alive, charged with memory and anticipation. Marcus Harlow moved along the riverbank, boots sinking slightly into damp earth, tracing the same curves and dips he had memorized over countless nights. Each footprint, each stone, each faint depression in the mud held a story, and in the dim glow of streetlights, the landscape seemed to whisper secrets of movement, concealment, and intent. Though the suspect had been arrested, and though legal resolution had been achieved, the town's heartbeat remained irregular, each thump echoing the weight of lingering uncertainty. Residents walked with cautious deliberation, eyes flicking over shoulders, small gestures imbued with suspicion, subtle signals, a community on alert even in the relative calm of night. Unexpected developments had begun to surface. Marcus reviewed a set of overlooked digital files discovered deep within the suspect's personal storage, files that suggested premeditation far more extensive than anyone had anticipated. Maps marked with routes, notes on timing, logs of neighborhood routines. Each item revealed a meticulous orchestration that had evaded detection for years. The forensic team corroborated these digital artifacts with physical evidence: soil samples, microscopic fibers, traces of synthetic material, all matching locations and objects associated with Emily's final journey. The integration of new forensic and digital evidence painted a picture of chilling precision. Every calculated move, every subtle manipulation, emerged as a testament to the suspect's patience, observation, and ruthless strategic mind. Emily's family, still navigating the oscillation between grief and relief, revisited familiar locations with renewed urgency. Each step along the riverbank, each glance across dimly lit streets, carried the weight of memory, sorrow, and tentative understanding. Marcus accompanied them, providing professional insight while respecting the rawness of their experience. Conversations unfolded in whispers, punctuated by the occasional shudder or sigh, reflections on moments that had seemed inconsequential but now revealed hidden significance. The emotional journey continued, relief at the arrest tempered by the realization of what could have been noticed sooner, grief for years lost, and the persistent, gnawing question of how ordinary trust had been exploited so thoroughly. The community's response intensified in parallel. Schools expanded programs on vigilance and awareness, parents reinforced subtle safety protocols, and civic forums hosted discussions on memory, observation, and proactive measures. Residents analyzed past interactions, reconsidered familiar routines, and integrated lessons from Emily's disappearance into daily life. Marcus observed the subtle recalibration of the town's collective consciousness. Ordinary gestures now carried layers of meaning, casual interactions were examined more critically, and communal dialogue balanced grief with the reinforcement of adaptive resilience. The shadow of the crime lingered, yet it had also catalyzed a cautious awakening, a vigilance tempered by understanding and memory. Forensic analysis revealed additional nuances. Microscopic residues on clothing and personal objects, soil composition, and fiber traces were re-examined with advanced techniques, creating a precise overlay of the suspect's movements and interactions. Patterns of concealment and manipulation, once speculative, became concrete. Each detail added to the narrative, illustrating the methodical and deliberate nature of the crime. Marcus meticulously documented every connection, aware that these insights served not only legal purposes, but also provided a framework for understanding behavioral patterns, environmental exploitation, and the ways in which trust could be systematically manipulated over time. The suspect's behavior during proceedings continued to fascinate and alarm. Every gesture, expression, and carefully measured word revealed layers of psychological control and manipulation. Marcus, alongside behavioral experts, analyzed interactions in detail, translating subtle cues into actionable understanding. Observations of body language, pacing, and narrative control illuminated a complex pattern of predation, patience, and strategic invisibility. The town, informed by public reporting on these analyses, internalized subtle lessons on human behavior, perception, and the potential for deception. Awareness became a shared language, a framework through which residents processed both fear and the emerging narrative of justice. As the trial progressed, new testimonies added both clarity and shock. Witnesses who had previously remained silent came forward, recounting seemingly insignificant interactions that now carried weight. A neighbor remembered the faint hum of a car engine at an unusual hour. A coworker recalled a cryptic conversation weeks before the disappearance. Even casual passers-by provided observations that, when mapped against forensic timelines, offered critical insights into movement and opportunity. Each revelation reshaped understanding, extending the reach of memory into the present and highlighting the delicate interplay between chance observation and meticulous planning. Marcus noted how ordinary recollection, combined with technological insight, could reconstruct a narrative of extraordinary precision. Emily's family experienced renewed waves of emotion with every detail revealed. Relief mingled with sorrow, clarity with doubt, and understanding with lingering unease. The riverbank, the diner, the streets of Harrow Creek, all became living archives of memory, grief, and reflection. Marcus observed how the family navigated these spaces, integrating forensic insight with lived experience. The arrest and trial had addressed legal accountability, yet the emotional calculus was far more complex, a process of iterative reflection, reconciliation, and cautious acceptance. Each visit reinforced lessons of vigilance, the fragility of trust, and the enduring presence of absence. Outside the courthouse, tension remained high. Residents lingered in streets and public spaces, absorbing news, recounting observations, and discussing implications. Schools integrated these insights into curricula, teaching children the subtle cues of danger and the importance of observation. Parents adjusted routines, embedding lessons into daily life. Marcus observed the social recalibration. Ordinary life now carried a dual awareness of risk and resilience. The community had internalized the interplay between environmental cues, social behavior, and the potential for concealed threat, embedding these lessons in both perception and practice. The riverbank, a central locus of analysis and memory, became a site for detailed observation. Marcus revisited subtle environmental cues, erosion patterns, vegetation shifts, and traces in the soil. Footprints, depressions, and environmental variables illuminated sequences of movement and concealment, revealing the suspect's strategic exploitation of natural and social spaces. The site functioned as both memorial and analytical tool, a tangible intersection of grief, memory, and forensic insight. Residents who accompanied Marcus or visited independently noted the eerie quiet, the charged atmosphere, and the pervasive sense of both presence and absence that had defined Emily's final journey. Even months after the arrest, psychological tension persisted throughout Harrow Creek. Shadows in familiar spaces, sudden noises, and unexpected movements triggered reflection and heightened vigilance. Marcus recognized that legal closure had not erased emotional impact. Rather, it crystallized a framework for reflection, adaptation, and resilience. Emily's absence had become a presence, guiding thought, shaping routines, and embedding lessons into communal consciousness. Residents navigated their days with a subtle recalibration, balancing normalcy with observation, fear with knowledge, and grief with proactive awareness. Unexpectedly, new fragments from previously overlooked storage surfaced, photographs, journals, and correspondence hinting at extended observation and premeditation. Marcus analyzed these materials carefully, noting an extraordinary pattern of planning, timing, and subtle manipulation. The findings were chilling, revealing that the suspect's orchestration had extended beyond immediate action, exploiting routine, trust, and environmental familiarity to maintain concealment. For the town, these revelations reinforced the dual necessity of vigilance and resilience, highlighting the delicate boundary between perception and deception. Emily's story, while rooted in tragedy, catalyzed change. Advocacy initiatives, educational programming, and civic dialogue proliferated. Marcus observed the transformation of community dynamics. Vigilance became embedded in social interaction, memory-informed behavior, and lessons from trauma were integrated into daily routines. The town, scarred but adaptive, navigated a delicate equilibrium. The past informed the present, grief reinforced awareness, and resilience emerged as both necessity and legacy. As night deepened, fog curling across streets and river alike, Marcus reflected on the paradox of closure. Legal resolution satisfied accountability, forensic detail illuminated sequences, behavioral analysis revealed motive and method, but the emotional and psychological imprint endured. Emily's absence, the lingering tension, and the community's altered consciousness created a complex landscape of memory, vigilance, and reflection. Harrow Creek, forever transformed, moved forward with awareness, resilience, and cautious hope, carrying forward lessons forged in the shadow of that single, unforgettable night in March 2000. The fog was thicker than ever that night, swirling across Harrow Creek like a living thing, carrying whispers of the past along narrow streets and empty sidewalks. Marcus Harlow moved deliberately through familiar routes, the riverbank under moonlight casting distorted shadows that seemed to shift with each step. The air was cold, damp, and filled with anticipation, as if the town itself sensed the approaching climax of years-long tension. The suspect's arrest had brought legal clarity, yet the town's heartbeat remained uneven, residents' movements cautious, glances wary, conversations measured, each person acutely aware of the fragility of trust. Marcus felt it in the way leaves rustled, the way distant headlights cut through fog, the way a sudden sound could set the mind racing with memory and conjecture. Unexpected evidence had emerged in the days leading to the trial's final phase. A set of encrypted digital logs, overlooked in earlier examinations, revealed patterns of planning, observation, and monitoring that surpassed prior estimations. The suspect had maintained a meticulous record of routines, environmental conditions, and potential witnesses, demonstrating a level of foresight and calculation that chilled even seasoned investigators. Each timestamp, each geolocation tag, each detail in these files corresponded precisely to forensic evidence previously mapped, creating a seamless reconstruction of the night Emily vanished. Marcus studied every file, aware that these fragments of digital consciousness revealed not only movement but mindset, methodical, patient, and ruthlessly strategic. Emily's family felt the tension keenly. They returned to the riverbank and surrounding areas, walking slowly, absorbing the subtle environmental changes, reflecting on memories long held in painful suspension. Each step was laden with remembrance. Each glance carried the weight of absence. Marcus observed the way they traced familiar routes, pausing at depressions in the soil, the edge of the water, subtle imprints left behind by events no one had fully grasped until now. Their grief intertwined with fragile relief at the arrest, yet the emerging evidence heightened unease. They saw, almost tangibly, The extent to which the suspect had monitored, anticipated, and manipulated both space and people, an unsettling choreography played out in silence and shadow. The community, acutely aware of the trial's progression, engaged in heightened reflection. Schools integrated case-based lessons emphasizing situational awareness, observation of subtle cues, and critical thinking about trust and routine. Parents reinforced vigilance subtly, instilling awareness without panic. Civic forums hosted discussions, dissecting details of forensic and behavioral findings for communal understanding. Marcus noted that the town's collective consciousness had shifted permanently. Ordinary gestures, interactions, and routines were now overlaid with reflection, memory, and caution. The collective recalibration was subtle yet profound, balancing fear with education, grief with action, and memory with cautious vigilance. Forensic review continued to uncover nuanced layers. Microscopic fibers, soil composition analysis, and trace evidence on personal belongings reinforced the suspect's precise orchestration. Environmental reconstruction revealed that even minute changes in light, wind, and ambient noise had been exploited strategically to conceal movement and manipulate perception. Marcus meticulously documented each connection, understanding that this level of precision provided both legal corroboration and psychological insight, highlighting the capacity for manipulation hidden within ordinary circumstances. Residents, absorbing public reporting, internalized these lessons, weaving awareness into behavior and redefining communal understanding of safety and trust. The suspect's courtroom behavior revealed a careful interplay of control, charm, and selective disclosure. Every gesture, pause, and carefully chosen word was scrutinized by Marcus and behavioral experts. Patterns of observation, timing, and strategic manipulation became evident, reinforcing the earlier forensic narrative while illustrating psychological sophistication. The public observed, learned, and adjusted perceptions. Awareness became a shared tool for processing both the procedural narrative and the broader implications of human behavior, trust,